Wheatgrass and Champagne podcast. I'm your host, Mandi Rose. I'm a holistic health coach with a passion to help others find balance in their life. My belief is that we can indulge in the amazing things life has to offer, like champagne, but still stay healthy using holistic approaches. Tune in each Wednesday to hear interviews with unique holistic entrepreneurs, learn practical tips on finding balance in your life, and get all the behind-the-scenes details of what I do to navigate my own health journey. Nothing is off limits in this series, so grab your shot of wheatgrass or your glass of champagne and prepare to upgrade your life and start healing. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wheatgrass and Champagne. This episode is going to be a champagne episode, so I have my glass of champagne and I wanted to talk about something fun. So this week is all about hangover remedies from a health coach. This is a topic I've wanted to share and do on this podcast for a really long time. So I've been taking a lot of notes, trying to think of really practical things that I can give you guys to help you get over that yucky feeling the next day after we drink. So as a health coach, of course, I recommend my clients not to drink alcohol. However, it's just not practical. It's just a part of society. It's part of our lifestyle. And so since I practice balance, wheatgrass and champagne, I wanted to make sure I had an episode to help you better prepare your body before we drink alcohol, and also what you can do the next morning or the next day when you wake up with that hungover, bloated feeling, can't get out of bed, no energy. So in this episode, I'm going to give you guys some actual practical tips that you can implement and try the next time you are going to go out drinking. So let's look at the science of a hangover, because I think if we can better understand our bodies, it makes a lot more sense on what we can do to actually cure a hangover, get over it really, really quickly, right? So typically when we consume alcohol, our liver is the main organ that is going to break down the toxic load. So you guys know I talk all the time about our toxic load, usually from just our daily lifestyle, and our daily routine is typically high. So we can gain toxins through the air we breathe, through the foods that we eat, through the water that we consume, right? The beauty products. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So most of us already have a pretty high toxic burden. And then you're adding in alcohol. So if you're someone that drinks only once a week, okay, maybe it's not a lot. But if you're someone that has a glass of wine or whatever on a daily basis, you're already adding to this really high toxic burden in the body. And the liver is the main organ that's actually going to break down the alcohol, right? Everyone's heard of cirrhosis of the liver if you are an alcoholic and consuming way too much alcohol. So the two main things that I always look at when it comes to a hangover and supporting my body is, what can I do for my liver to help it function better? And the other main part is inflammation. So when we consume alcohol, too much of it can irritate the actual lining of the stomach, and that causes an inflammatory response in our body. What happens when we have too much inflammation? We get puffy, we get bloated. You can see it in someone's face. You ever wake up the next day with a hangover and your eyes are super puffy? Your body, your ankles sometimes can be swollen. Our hands, our fingers can be really stiff. The joints are swollen. These are really common symptoms of a hangover, and they come from too much inflammation in the body. So when you have foods that are inflammatory already on a daily basis, and you already have inflammation, so if you have an autoimmune disorder, heart disease, diabetes, all these different health issues that are already inflammatory based, and then you consume alcohol on top of it, it's no wonder that this inflammatory response in the body is so heightened that your hangovers typically are way worse. So besides supporting the liver, keeping our inflammation low on a regular basis, and then also looking at genetic mutations. So this is a tough one. I just bring this up simply because I think it's important to just acknowledge it. Most people actually have some sort of genetic mutation that does not allow them to detox on a regular basis. The specific gene that I have and that I share with a lot of my clients is called the MTHFR gene. So you can look up this gene on Google or on the internet. And so essentially what it does is it inhibits your body's ability to methylate. And methylate is just another word for detoxify. So for me, for instance, I did a genetic testing and I am what's called double homogenous, which means I have two strands of this gene. I got one from my mother and one from my father. And so I am 80% less able to detoxify like a normal person. So when I have anything that has a toxic burden to it, even more so with alcohol, my body cannot process it and detox it out as simply as it could for someone else who maybe only has one strain of this genetic mutation or no strains. So if you are someone that typically gets hangovers very easily, like let's say you only have a drink or two and the next day you feel totally awful, but like your spouse or friends can drink 2-3 times as much and they don't have any kind of hangover, it could be that you have this genetic mutation. And this genetic mutation is very closely related to a deficiency in B vitamins. And going back to the liver runs on B vitamins. So it's really important to make sure that we have optimal B vitamin levels to begin with. Okay, so let's jump right in. I want to break this up into what you can do before you drink and what you need to do after you drink, like when you wake up the next morning. So before I drink alcohol, the number one thing that I think is the most important is to get really hydrated. So if you know that you're going to a cocktail party at night, you're going to the beach on, Saturday morning, over the weekend, whenever you know that you're going to consume alcohol, make sure that at least 8 hours prior to drinking that you hydrate your body. And this is going to do two different things. The first thing it's going to do is increase the volume of water in your body. So when you do drink alcohol, it's going to be more diluted. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because if you're like, I'm here to get drunk, right? Why would I want to dilute the alcohol in my system? No, what that's going to do is it's going to take that burden off the liver to process too much alcohol at once. So make sure you stay really, really hydrated. And the other big key for me when I hydrate is I add minerals to my water. So I use a concentrated mineral dropper. It's called Trace Minerals. You can find it on Amazon. I'll link it in the show notes. And adding minerals to your water is not only going to help the liver, but it's going to help your entire body be more hydrated and more replenished to be able to process the alcohol. So number one, definitely hydration. Number two, B vitamins. I talked about it at the beginning when we talked about the science of the liver. The liver runs and needs B vitamins. So when we drink alcohol, we are literally depleting our B vitamin storages. So I always make sure to take a B complex. I take it on a regular basis, of course, but I always make sure that I'm taking my dose the day of drinking. I absolutely love Pure Encapsulation's B complex because if you are someone that has the genetic mutation that I mentioned earlier, the MTHFR gene, you want to make sure you're getting the proper types of B vitamins. So for instance, B12, if you have a B12 supplement, I want you to look at the label. And if it says cyanocobalamin with a CYAN, cyanocobalamin, that is a synthetic form of B vitamins. And if you have a genetic mutation like MTHFR, it's actually poisonous to your body. So if you're someone that's not sure if you have this mutation or not, and it's a simple blood test that you can get done through your doctor, or if you've done one of those like 23andMe's, you can probably look on there. But if you don't know or you don't have the resources to find out, I tell people just assume you have it, right? Err on the side of caution. So you want to take a B12, not cyanocobalamin, but rather one that says methylcobalamin. Methyl, meaning methylated, meaning more natural. So that's a big thing. So Pure Encapsulation's B complex is my absolute favorite. And then food. Food is a big thing. Everyone talks about having greasy foods, fill your body up with like pizza and fats and all of that. And then that way when you drink, right, it'll like soak up the alcohol. Well, here's my qualm about that. If you have foods that are already unhealthy and have a toxic burden to them, aka they're processed or they have chemicals and they're GMO, you are now increasing the toxic load and burden in your body. And then you add alcohol on top of that. Of course, your liver is not going to be happy. So when you do consume food prior to drinking, make sure that you have foods that are healthy, organic. So if you're having burgers, make sure it's grass-fed meat. If you're having bread and carbs, try to go with a gluten-free option. Have fats. I'm a huge proponent for healthy fats, coconut oil, olive oil. Those things are really great for the body. So those are some options when you're looking at your foods. So, of course, the type of alcohol you choose to drink will highly impact how hungover you're going to feel the next day. So, it's going to be impossible to talk about every type of alcohol, but some of the worst ones is going to be red wine or any kind of wine because it contains sulfites. Unless you're consuming an organic wine. If you're a wine lover, I highly recommend organic wines because it does not typically contain sulfites. And sulfites are what gives people the wine headache. You know, if you drink red wine, you wake up the next day and you have like a total wine headache. Sulfites are usually the cause for that. So maybe try to avoid wine, which I know it's so delicious. It's one of my favorite. You guys know champagne, right? So I try to go for an organic option. Beer usually doesn't cause a hangover as much because people don't consume enough as if they were drinking hard alcohol. However, the hangover symptoms of bloating, inflammation, those kind of symptoms will be apparent over time when you consume beer because of the wheat, because it is made with a gluten-based product, right? So I try to tell my clients avoid that. And then also those sugary drinks like Trulies and White Claws, they're so popular, but they're just pure sugar. So typically that's going to cause more inflammation to the gut, and more inflammation is going to give you more of a hangover the next day, right? Because we talked about that at the beginning of this episode. The inflammatory response in the gut is going to make you feel bloated and puffy and usually kind of nauseous. It's like eating way too much sugar. And then when we talk about hard liquors, I'm sure you've heard already that the darker the liquor, the more the hangover. So you're looking at whiskeys and scotches, even some like dark rums. All those can definitely cause more of a hangover because just like beer, it's usually made from a grain base. So typically people ask me, well, what do you drink? Well, I love tequila. And I know for most people that is a poison for them, but tequila is amazing. It's made from the agave plant. It's usually pretty clean. I always try to go with a silver or a reposado. Fun fact from a bartender, if you see a gold tequila, avoid it. It is garbage. It's just silver tequila with some caramel food coloring added to it to make it look like it's a high-class tequila. So gold tequila, no go. Instead, get the real stuff, the reposado or the añejo. So I find that my hangovers are way less when I drink tequila. If you are someone that loves vodka, try to go with an organic vodka. Try to go with a gluten-free that's maybe not made from grains, like a grape-based vodka or corn-based vodka. And then rums are just so sugary that you're more likely to get a hangover because it goes back to what I was talking about with like the Trulies and the White Claws. Too much sugar is going to cause way too much inflammation in the body. So now not only do you have the alcohol causing inflammation, but you also have that sugar that's causing inflammation. So my favorite is hands down tequila. Gin would be really good too since that's made from juniper berries, and then a vodka. So no matter what you drink, the mixer is just as much important. So when I pick a mixer, I always pick something that's actually going to hydrate me and bring me a lot of minerals. So typically I use coconut water. It's so hydrating, has all the potassium and electrolytes that you might need. You can even buy some electrolyte drops and put those in. So if you're someone that likes maybe vodka and orange juice, you can add some of those mineral drops that I was talking about earlier, the trace mineral drops, or something with electrolytes in it. I don't recommend Gatorade or Powerade. Those things are garbage, way too much sugar, not enough electrolytes. So go with maybe like a coconut mixer. And then also something like just seltzer water, something with just some bubbles, and you can add fresh fruit, lemon or limes or some berries. That is always preferable. So for me, it's all about balance. So if I am going to have alcohol, which I know I shouldn't, I'm going to have something that's going to help offset that chemical burden in my body. So that's where the mixers come in. And then the other thing I absolutely love is what's called Can't Beat This. It's from Purium Health Products. I work with that company a lot. I absolutely love that everything that they have is organic and raw and powders, and they ship it to your door. But they have a specific product called Can't Beat This, and I'll link it below. It is made from beets, which is absolutely amazing for the kidneys. It helps people with an MTHFR genetic mutation detoxify better, and it also has a lot of properties that will help your body process the alcohol a lot better. So different adaptogenic herbs and other herbs in it that help the body process alcohol. So it has almost like, I know it's called Can't Beat This, but it doesn't really taste like beets. It has like a tropical punch flavor. So typically I'll just take that and put it in my drink. with my alcohol. So it tastes really, really good. So those are all the tips that I have for pre-drinking. And I'll just go through them really quick again. Make sure you hydrate before. Make sure you take your B vitamins, a good B complex. Pick a good type of alcohol to drink that has a low sugar content and low gluten content. And then also pick a mixer that's going to help you hydrate, and eat some foods that have a low chemical and low toxic burden. So those are all amazing tips for before we drink. But what about the next day? What about when you wake up the next day and you feel so awful? Like you wake up and you just feel like, ugh, I cannot do this. So I want to talk about the few different symptoms. The first one is dehydration. Everyone knows when we wake up from drinking, you feel so dehydrated. So the biggest thing for me is back to the trace mineral drops. Make sure that in your water the next morning, you're dropping in those mineral drops, making sure that you have some form of green drink the next day. I know like that is the last thing that we crave when we feel hungover, but if you can get some type of green drink in your body, you're going to help your liver and support it in its detoxification. Because essentially that's all we really need to do when we have a hangover is open our detox pathways, help get that alcohol out, help the liver do its job, right? So liver support is huge. One of my favorite things that you can do while you're laying in bed, hungover, don't want to move, is a castor oil pack. If you don't know what that is, it's been used in holistic medicine for a very long time to support the liver. And essentially, you're going to get castor oil. You can get this at your local health food store, on Amazon. And you're going to take a cotton cloth and soak it in castor oil. And you're going to place it over your liver. And on top of that cloth, you're going to maybe either put some saran wrap or some plastic and then heat. You can use like a hot water bottle. You can use a heating pad. Anything that will put some heat on that castor oil soaked cloth, and let it sit there for about a half hour, 45 minutes. And that really helps stimulate the liver and help it process the alcohol or any toxins really. Another thing that I love, if I'm going on a weekend getaway, maybe it's a bachelorette party, maybe it's a friend's birthday party, maybe it's just an event that you know you're going to drink a lot, book a vitamin IV the next day. I know that's not an option for a lot of people financially, or maybe you live in an area where they don't have vitamin IV centers readily available. But if you do and you've never had one done, it is life-changing, absolutely life-changing. You go in, they usually give you like a Myers cocktail or a hangover remedy pack, and you just essentially sit there and get replenished with your hydration, replenished with minerals, replenished with B vitamins. And if you're super nauseous and you're someone that can't get water down, or you're having a hard time consuming foods, a vitamin IV is just hands down the best way to go. Another thing you want to do is sweat. And I know when I'm hungover, the last thing I want to do is go work out because I'm usually so nauseous or I'm just not feeling well at all. But any kind of way to promote sweat. So if you have an infrared sauna, maybe you can get in a detox bath. If it's summer and you're outside and you want to go like sweat in the sun, that's also a really good option. So anything that promotes sweating will really, really help, again, open those detox pathways and take the burden off the liver. And then the last thing that helps me every time is CBD. It's the whole craze right now. Everyone's talking about CBD, but CBD really helps bring our bodies back to homeostasis. And it's something that they actually use at rehab centers for people coming in with a chemical overdose. So CBD can really help bring that balance back to the body. I just do typically a couple sprays. I also use Purium Health products. They have a 1,500 milligram. Just spray it right under your tongue. It also helps decrease inflammation. So in the gut, inflammation in the body. Another remedy that I love is actually a homeopathic remedy. So you can typically find this at health food stores by the homeopathic tinctures, or you can get it on Amazon. But it's a homeopathic remedy called Nux vomica, which sounds totally crazy. It's Nux space VOMICA, Nux vomica. And that is a technical term for the poison nut tree. And in homeopathic medicine, essentially, if you consumed that substance, aka the poisonous nut, you would get the symptoms that mimics exactly what you feel during a hangover. So in homeopathic medicine, when you're feeling the symptoms, you take that remedy and it triggers your body's natural healing response to bring you back to homeostasis. So Nux vomica is one of the most popular, widely used hangover remedies. And typically you just put it under your tongue. It usually comes in these little tiny sugar pellets, and you just put it under your tongue. I do about 5 pellets under the tongue every half hour until my symptoms completely subside. And usually it'll work pretty instantly. So those are my favorite after drinking remedies. I'll sum them up again real quick. Make sure that you have green drinks. Make sure that you're extremely hydrated the next day, even if you have to take little tiny sips of water. Add those mineral drops, add some form of electrolytes, coconut water, anything like that that's going to help replenish the hydration. If you can't get anything down, look into getting a vitamin IV. There's a lot of centers that can get you in typically the same day or schedule it in advance. Making sure that you're sweating. That's a quick way to try to help release those toxins out of the body. Also doing a lot of liver support, so herbs that help the liver. Lemon balm tea is really good. I didn't mention that earlier, but it's a really good tea to drink the next morning. Doing castor oil packs, putting that heat over the liver. CBD is great, and then the homeopathic remedy, Nux Vomica. So those are my favorite remedies. Hopefully you guys can implement those the next time you're going out drinking. I know it's something that we all wish we didn't have to experience, and we always wake up the next day going, why the heck did I drink? How smart was that? But again, it's life, and we are here to enjoy it in every capacity, and that's why it's called Wheatgrass and Champagne, because if you have your wheatgrass, then you can have your champagne. So hopefully these tips help you. If you have any other tips that help you, please share them with me, because I'm always looking for better ways to get over that hangover. Something I do not recommend to my clients is taking aspirin, ibuprofen, Tylenol, anything like that to help with a hangover, because it has been scientifically shown taking any of those will deplete the master antioxidant in our liver called glutathione. Glutathione is our master antioxidant. It's responsible for aging. It's responsible for decreasing inflammation and oxidative stress in the body. So if you are taking Tylenol or ibuprofen and decreasing that really essential antioxidant in the body, you're actually preventing the body from overcoming inflammation. So I do not recommend it at all. And that's why I actually opt for CBD instead, because CBD will act very similarly in the body by decreasing inflammation and helping with any kind of pain. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I've been really excited to make this one because it's so important to make sure that we are hydrated before we dehydrate, have our wheatgrass before our champagne, and live life totally balanced. So as always, whether you're cleansing or celebrating, cheers!